tried to do this video earlier today and I was having storage issues on my phones. We're also having empty bay issues too. I guess it is what it is. The Halloween parade for Palmyra, Wisconsin, at the threats of hurricane and rain. Yeah, there ain't nothing going on in here in Cinnaminson. This is a new customer to us. Let me find the work order here. This is a 2018 GMC Terrain 2.0 turbo gasoline engine. Passenger rear brake light is not working. Client concerns. Check engine light on. Feeling sluggish. We did a quick code pull with a po1101 intake airflow performance. This is a tricky one, and every vehicle is a little different. Now I'm going to take you through it. This customer was just at their regular mechanic shop, had the oil change done, and they were trying to get to them, but they couldn't see him till Saturday. The problem was there the day you changed the oil, dude. You should have identified it to your customer. Regardless if the check engine light's on or not, you should be able to see the signs of problems with the customer's car. Let me take you through it. The crankcase is pressurizing so much that it's blowing oil vapor out of the dipstick. So here you have a double O-ring dipstick, okay, and it's blowing oil out of here, along with the intake airflow performance. This is a tricky one on lower mileage vehicles that aren't abused, and I'm going to get into that it's a simple check the air filter, replace the air filter. They're just in for an oil change. They were just in for an oil change. They never said anything to them that you have an issue here with your dipstick here leaking oil out of it, but it's not leaking out of the oil cap. It's pressurizing the valve cover because the PCV system has a problem. I'm going to get further into that. So typically on an intake airflow performance, provided that the air filter is not in wrong, the mass airflow sensor doesn't have problems, the intake boot's not bad, a couple simple checks that you need to get into. You need to get down to the throttle body and inspect the throttle body and see how nasty that is, and then go through some other relearns. Why is the throttle body so nasty? Let me just show you. That's why the throttle body's so nasty. Like, who was the last place to change oil? So this is a new customer, and the oil sticker doesn't have a shop name on it, just a generic blank oil sticker that says return in 5,000 miles. This engine can't handle 5,000 mile oil changes if the customer is pushing it past 5,000 at the same time, let alone do we even know the quality of oil this shop is using. I have no answers for you. We have full synthetic and we have semi-synthetic in our shop. We don't use cheap oil or the wrong oil for people's cars. Although customers ask us all the time that my car takes synthetic, will you put regular oil in it or a synthetic blend? If it takes synthetic, no. We'll change the viscosities for people, but if it calls for a full synthetic, you're getting a full synthetic. It's just how it goes. If it says you can use full synthetic and synthetic blend, then we will do that too. It all depends on what the manufacturer is suggesting. Again, we don't know the quality oil. I really don't know if the customer's pushing it past 5,000 miles. And Caleb and I had this discussion that if we write an oil change sticker for 3,000 miles, I can barely get the customer to show up in 5,000 miles. We have a couple goodies that are here razor sharp at 3,000 miles because we're keeping an eye on their system. It's a health check. This engine here that we actually discovered today, that customers not using the required fuel for this vehicle. They're not. It induces more problems. But the mechanic should have caught it before she got an engine light and wound up possibly blowing out the turbo or blowing out the rear main seal or catastrophic failure. This engine's already problematic with actually it's not this motor. There's no sensor on it. Then they may have had this replaced already, which is the brake vacuum pump. But there's another version of this engine where the crankshaft or camshaft counter is not welded or keywayed and comes apart, and this breaks, and then you have a bunch of other problems. Another story for another day. But their mechanic should have seen that there was a problem here. They should have said, hey, your car really is due for some maintenance here at what? Almost 80,000 miles?
She's at 71.
Not even 80,000 miles. So when Caleb pulled the air filter out, he goes, dude, the air box just smells like oil. And I was like, all right, let's move through, let's smoke test it, let's just check in this, and then we pulled the dipstick tube and you can hear
the oil gurgle.
The oil gurgling with the smoke test. on it, and I'm like, yeah, this PCV system's clogged. And then when we pulled the oil cap, and we're like, oh yeah, this thing's definitely got problems. Now this PCV system consists of a lot of different moving parts, and I'm going to get my light on top of here and I'm going to show you one piece of the PCV system. Another hose assembly to the turbocharger, which is plastic that could break, right? Another intake boot PCV system style into a T, into another check valve, into another check valve, and then in the valve cover there is another PCV system incorporated into that. What's the fix? Replace everything. Now some systems are serviceable, some are not. This one's, the valve cover has to come off anyway, so we're going to replace it with the updated valve cover and PCV system. And there's really not too many changes. The changes are the customer needs to start using the right gasoline for this car and changing your oil every 3,000 miles and get a health check on it. Now that the inside of the engine's so disgusting, I can't really use color for this engine, so I got to use my experience and knowledge that says this car needs better gas than they're using, and it needs 3,000 mile oil changes, or she's going to need an engine or a turbo sooner than later. I'm going to take you through the TSB. And how do you know that what fuel your turbocharged car requires, or any vehicle that you drive? Typically it's right here. Customer is definitely not using super or premium fuel. Regular. Facts. Regular gasoline in a car that calls for super is catastrophic failure over a long period of time. So this is the bulletin. I'll give it to you if you guys want to look it up. And you could use a vacuum gauge to test this. I didn't need to even go that far. I already know that it has problems. And then here in the valve cover, okay, they're showing you this piston that's inside the valve cover here, and you can't service that without the valve cover being off. But you have to take the valve cover off anyway, so you might as well put a new valve cover on and replace everything. There's other guys out here that are going and just replacing everything, not replacing the parts that they suspect are clogged or failed. So we don't know how much debris is in here. We don't know how much debris is in here, and here, and here, and here. Service, 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 service. Pull the valve cover off, replace the valve cover. It's going to come with the new PCV valve in there. Turbocharged engines have such a sophisticated PCV system with a bunch of systems that use positive pressure to stop them from blowing pieces apart, keeping the boost pressure in the intake system and not necessarily in the PCV system or evap system. So it's way more advanced of a PCV system than this PCV system. Okay, so this is Audi and Volkswagen's, which has a high failure rate. So now we're back onto this here, but yeah, you saw it right there. Here's the TSBs. But my point to this is their mechanics should have noticed that there was a problem here. This isn't new. This is just has been happening, right? And you can see that it's coming out of here and it's starting to make its way back, and it's not from the oil filter cap. And if you open your air box and it smells like a lot of oil, you have some crankcase ventilation issues that require maintenance, let alone no GDI service, no fuel injection service, no throttle body services, cheap gasoline, overextended oil changes. If she didn't meet us and get the right mechanic on this car, this thing won't make 100,000 miles. Hopefully that there isn't too much sludge going on inside the engine, and that she's not going to have any more problems once we get done with this thing. But it's crazy. It is crazy what I see in the bays. And some other shops just don't care. They're like, oh, change the oil, send them out. Don't check the filter, don't recommend maintenance. Every vehicle has a different maintenance schedule based on how the customer's taking care of it, how they're using it, what oil, what fuels. This car's maintenance is not the same as that maintenance, and as that maintenance, different driver, different fuel, different driver, different fuel, different driver, different fuel, different mechanic keeping an eye on it, different mechanic keeping an eye on it, different mechanic keeping an eye on it. This car, don't know the history. That car, don't know the history. This car, don't know the history. It's a mystery. I gotta peel off the layers and figure it out. But this was a simple sign that you have too much positive crankcase pressure, and it's not because they go in so many times for oil changes that the dipstick seals are worn out. That's a fact. Thanks for watching.